The morning in Hollow Bottom had a rare tranquility, the kind that made everything feel in balance. The golden light of dawn bathed the quiet streets, while the early risers' chatter provided a gentle soundtrack to the day. In the heart of the town stood Café Serendipity, a cozy, slightly worn place with weathered wooden tables, the soft aroma of fresh ground coffee, and an old vinyl record player spinning classics. This cafe was not just a local haunt, it was where chance meetings often turned into lifelong connections. Inside, three friends who couldn't have been more different were sharing their morning ritual of steaming cups of coffee and conversation. Their paths had crossed by chance at various times, but Café Serendipity had become their meeting point, the place that kept them bonded despite their differences. Come on, it's a perfect day. Why do you both look like you're headed to a funeral? Matt, the eternal optimist, leaned back in his chair with a grin. His silver hair was tousled, and his bright green eyes sparkled with the energy of someone ready for the next big thing. No matter what curveballs life threw his way. Paul turned to Matt. It'd be perfect if we weren't about to dive into another one of your crazy schemes. I still haven't fully recovered from that hiking trip last month. Paul, seated across from Matt, rolled his eyes as he adjusted his oversized glasses. Paul was the embodiment of 80s nostalgia, right down to the neon-colored tracksuits and synthesizer music he played from a bulky cassette player. His love for all things retro was both endearing and a little absurd. That's because you insisted on wearing those vintage high tops. They were falling apart by mile two, and I had to carry you back. Matt chuckled. Paul's face reddened, but he couldn't deny it. Ben turned around and said, "Style over comfort." Ben, sitting quietly beside them, seemed lost in thought, his coffee untouched. He worked downtown in an office, a job that drained the life out of him a little more each day. His curly brown hair, once lively, now drooped like his posture, and his eyes looked distant, tired from hours spent under the fluorescent lights of his cubicle.
Ben, tell me you're not on board with this.
What? Ben blinked as if coming out of a trance. See, Matt's already roped you in and you didn't even notice. Paul groaned in exaggerated frustration. Matt, smiling but sympathetic, turned to Ben. Ben, buddy, you need this. I've got the perfect thing to get you out of that office slump. Ben turned around. I don't know. What are you planning this time? Matt leaned in conspiratorially. I found something interesting. Paul gave him a wary look. Matt's plans were always interesting. Sometimes too interesting. Oh no, what did you find this time? Matt's grin widened. Matt, looking serious, continued. Right outside town there's an old haunted house. Old Mrs. Lancaster's, from the oddities shop down the street told me about it. There's this abandoned mansion just past the oak forest. People say it's haunted. Lights flickering, weird noises, even figures in the windows. Paul responded, "Of course it's haunted. Why wouldn't it be? Let me guess. Anyone who steps inside vanishes forever, or worse." Matt smiled, maybe not, but doesn't it sound like fun? Paul continued, "So you want us to go check it out? Tonight, right after sunset. And what? We just walk in and say hello to the ghosts?" "Not exactly, but think of it as an adventure. Worst case scenario, it's a spooky house and we have a laugh. Best case scenario, we get a story to tell for years." Ben, though still cautious, found himself warming to the idea. The thought of something, anything other than the monotony of his office job, was appealing. Ben responded, "I guess it couldn't hurt." Paul leaned in. "I can't believe I'm agreeing to this, but fine, I'll come. But if I see one creepy doll, I'm out." Matt smiled. Awesome, it's settled. We'll meet back here at sunset." As they finished their coffees and prepared to head out for the day, none of them noticed the tall, dark figure standing outside the cafe's window. The figure lingered for a moment, watching them, its eyes glinting in the morning light before it disappeared into the street. The day dragged on for Ben, his mind constantly drifting back to the mansion. At work, he couldn't focus, his thoughts consumed by what awaited them that night. Paul, while outwardly grumbling, secretly prepared his gear, a flashlight, snacks, and a Polaroid camera, just in case. His mind raced with a mixture of excitement and dread, recalling all the horror tropes he'd grown up with. Matt, on the other hand, was in his element. He made a stop at Mrs. Lancaster's shop after work, picking up an old map she had mentioned. The mansion was clearly marked, deep within the oak forest. As he was leaving, Mrs. Lancaster gave him a cryptic look. "Be careful. Not everything in that house stays in the past." Night fell, and the cafe took on a different mood, bathed in twilight as the town quieted. The trio met again, this time with nervous energy. "You guys ready?" Matt whispered. "I guess both Puel and Ben replied." With the map in hand, they set off into the night, heading toward the mansion just beyond the oak forest. None of them knew what awaited them there, but the air crackled with a strange energy, as though the night itself was anticipating something. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: their lives would never be the same after this night. As they vanished into the darkness, Hollow Bottom remained still, blissfully unaware of the strange and mysterious events about to unfold. As they vanished into the darkness, Hollow Bottom remained still, blissfully unaware of the strange and mysterious events about to unfold.